I've been thinking a lot about what I went through that night a couple of years back. I've never had the chance to process it. I think when you go through something traumatic or unusual, you compartmentalize it to the point where it feels like it happened to somebody else. That's what it feels like to me. Back then, I was living in a suburb near Pittsburgh. I was making ends meet, but margins were slim, and the notion of owning my own house felt like a dream at best. I'd been dating a girl for 2 years, looking for the perfect time to propose, but I just couldn't find the right time and place. But my fortunes were about to change. I got offered a promotion at my job. I'd be a shift manager at a large chemical plant in a couple of weeks. But even better, I got an email about something that might be the perfect time and place for me to finally propose. I was subscribed to a newsletter for a particular singer-songwriter that my girlfriend and I both enjoyed. The first thing we'd ever bonded over was music. There was a promotional campaign where there would be a sneak release of tickets to an upcoming tour, and the first 30 in line would be offered backstage passes. I couldn't imagine a better place to pop the question. Maybe I could get a chance to do it on stage if I asked nicely, but it had to be a surprise, so I kept it to myself. I made up an excuse about going to see my brother and packed a camp-out kit to get in line well and early. The newsletter recommended all those interested to be in line at least 24 hours ahead of the ticket release. Please be patient and understanding, the email read, and please wait in line. I drove out there early Saturday morning. They'd arranged it as a sort of a pop-up store. It was gonna have all kinds of merch, and by opening day, there'd be plenty of people dropping by to get ordinary tickets. But I'd be one of those 30 who got the good ones, come hell or high water. It was awkward getting there though. They had shut down 3 of the roads for maintenance, making me zigzag between cones and waiting for traffic in opposing lanes to take a turn. There was an apartment complex nearby, but that had been tented up for fumigation. A couple of nearby stores were shut down after health inspections. All in all, it was just bad timing, and there would be no comforts. But I got a bunch of gear packed. I'd be fine. I had an audiobook, some TV shows, and a lawn chair with a slot for an attachable umbrella. I could sit out there for days if need be. As with most pop-up events, there was no big sign, and the location was closed with metal shutters out front. The only thing that showed that this was the place was a discreet little poster on the side of the door that read, "You made it." The newsletter had mentioned that particular poster. It was all designed in a way to make the release feel exclusive. I got there about 23 hours early, and my heart sank. There were already people in line. Luckily, I only counted 27, but for a short moment, I was ready to throw in the towel. I got to the back of the line, did a second and third count, and breathed a sigh of relief. As long as no one cut in line, I was in the green. So I set up my chair, attached an umbrella to my chair, and got started on the first season of Monk. After a couple of hours, the line had grown to about 50 people before slowing down. Maybe those in the back were hoping people up front would either drop out, or maybe they hoped there'd be extra tickets. The email had mentioned that there might be a couple of extras, but it wouldn't be guaranteed. But I was still in the green, so I didn't have to worry all that much. It wasn't an unpleasant place to stay. The building was facing away from the sun, and there wasn't any traffic nearby because of all the maintenance. I think the crews had stopped working for the weekend because there was little to no machine noise. I didn't hear a single jackhammer or concrete mixer, just the ambience of the city and the murmur of people in line. There was a bit of a tussle up front. This one woman was getting up and talking to people. She was hard to miss. She had this neon green band shirt and blue-colored hair. You could see her from a mile away. She went down the line asking if anyone had any antihistamines, allergy pills. she was having some sort of reaction. Turns out no one had any, so she had to head off to find some. There was a drugstore a couple of blocks away, and the guy next to her promised she could keep her spot. So she walked away, thanking those around her for being so understanding. The thing is, she never came back. Hours later, her spot was still vacant. By dinner time, I kicked up a conversation with a guy next to me. He'd arrived just after I did, so he was still among the first 30. His name was Rodney, and he had this lean metalhead kind of build, arms covered in tattoos, and those kinds of pants with zippers that you can turn into shorts. It didn't look like his kind of venue. "I'm surprising my girl." Rodney smiled. "She loves this stuff." "Same here," I said. "I think I might pop the question." "Congrats. Love to see it." He offered me a Coke, and I took it. He hadn't prepared himself quite like I had, so I offered him a pad to watch some shows while I listened to my audiobook. We shared a couple of stories, some snacks, and added one another to our socials. I chomped down on a cold burrito for dinner and took a nap. Rodney was on his phone talking to a friend for a bit. The people ahead of me were having a conversation of their own, and I only caught parts of it. They were discussing if there were 30 available tickets in total, or if there were more tickets given out to the first 30 people. Was there only one ticket per person? Because if all in line wanted 2 or more, that'd be over 60 in total. The email hadn't specified it, so they were a bit worried. I had no idea, but there was no point in arguing about it. We'd see in about a day. There was this one guy who was a couple of spots ahead of me that had to step out of line. He had a friend coming by to drop off some stuff, so he asked if they could hold this spot for a bit. It'd just be a couple of minutes. I saw him disappear around the corner. Doing that, I'm in a bit of a hurry kind of jock that polite people do. A couple of minutes passed, then half an hour. After a full hour, he still wasn't back. "Isn't that strange?" I said to Rodney. "2 people have gone to get something and none came back." "Sure, yeah, strange," he nodded. "But some people just say those things to get an excuse to leave. It's embarrassing to say you're bored, you know." "I guess. It's just strange." "I work at the hospital," he said. "I'm an anesthesiologist. I know what people who crack under pressure looks like. They always shuffle away with a convenient excuse." "You sure that's it?" I asked. "Nah, but I got no other explanation." "Fair enough." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sounds of the city lowered to a mumble. Cars gave way to people walking their dogs, and in this particular neighborhood, there was a lot of those. There were a couple more people who got out of line and walked away, not to return. We were still well over 40 though, but I think some got cold feet as the city got dark. A couple of light posts from a nearby street cast long shadows across the pavement. I was having a nap when Rodney poked me. He looked confused. "Some folks in the back are saying we're in the wrong line. They're opening some name brand store. There ain't no ticket sales." "You're shitting me?" I scoffed. "You can't be serious." A guy 3 steps ahead looked back. "This ain't no store opening," he called back. "It's an autograph signing." That kicked up a murmur. All of a sudden, the entire line was talking. There was some confusion about what we were actually doing out there. A lot of people were there for tickets, but for different artists. Some were there for a shop opening, an autograph signing, or a giveaway. A couple of phones were passed around and shown so we could compare emails. All emails were from different accounts, seemingly official enough to pass the spam filters. They all advertised different things, but they ended up with the same line. "Please be patient and understanding, and please wait in line." It became readily apparent that no one had the faintest idea what this opening actually was. A couple of folks just got up and left. Finally, the guy at the very front stepped out of line. "I'm not sticking around for some fucking scam," he spat. "I'm going home. You should too." A couple more people packed up, but hadn't decided what to do. I was a bit on the fence about it. But as I watched the first man round the corner, I figured there'd be some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe they were doing several promotions at once? I heard his voice. He sounded surprised and a little angry. "What is this?" Then he screamed. A blood-curdling, ear-bleeding scream. It got quiet. Everyone looked at one another, trying to find an answer to what was going on. I got out of my chair to get a better look, but Rodney put his hand on my arm. "Hold on," he said, lowering his voice. "Don't go." "We should call someone," he agreed. But we could see other people were already calling for help. The man from the front of the line never returned. There was someone in the back who called for help. A few people walked down the road to see if everyone was okay, but they never returned either. A patrol vehicle came by about 20 minutes later. 2 police officers walked up, asking questions. Everyone said the same thing. A man had stepped away, and it sounded like he got hurt. The officers did a sweep of the road, and when they came back around, they shrugged it off. "There's nothing here," they said. "You're sure he didn't just call out to a friend?" There were a lot of raised voices at that, but what could we say? It wasn't illegal to step out of line and not come back. There was no blood or sign of a struggle. Maybe we hadn't heard what we thought we heard. But people were raising other issues, like the emails we'd been sent. It all seemed like a plot to trick us. That the officers had something to say about. "No, it's legit," one said. "We were informed that there'd be people waiting in line for some kind of event." They had no idea what the promotion was for though, and even if they did, they couldn't disclose it. It was all arranged by an event promoter who'd in turn been hired by someone else. All in all, there was nothing they could do but to wish us the best of luck and be on their way. As they left, I noticed them meeting up with someone walking their dog at the end of the street. They shook hands, looked at us, and went their separate ways. Rodney and I stayed up late. We decided we'd take turns sleeping just to make sure no one took our things. I took the first shift. The line had whittled down to about 30 people by then. There had been a lot of people trickling out after the uncertainty of what this was supposed to be. Of course, none of them came back. I didn't hear anything else, but there was this rising unease that there was something inherently dangerous about stepping away. I could hear a couple of people talking about it. That is, until a woman further back had enough. She'd been sitting quietly for a while, listening to people talk over her. "It's not a big deal," she groaned. "Look, I'll take one lap around the building. I'll leave my purse here so you know I'll be back, alright?" Maybe she was tired or frustrated. Maybe she wanted to prove a point. She stepped out of line and rounded the corner with a huff. Judging by the size of the building, it ought to take a couple of minutes at a brisk walking pace. But as those minutes dragged into half an hour, it was clear she wasn't coming back. She'd left everything behind, so it was clear this wasn't voluntary. Something had kept her from coming back. No one would willingly leave behind their identification, credit cards, or phone. A couple of people discussed leaving as a group. Someone mentioned leaving while being on a phone call, to report back as they went, but no one wanted to take the risk. We didn't know what was going on, and no one was eager to put themselves on the line. Instead, we waited, speculated, and murmured back and forth about what might be going on. Was it a trafficking thing, gang-related? Or was this whole thing just a big misunderstanding? I woke up Rodney around midnight and leaned back in my chair. I told him about the woman leaving her things behind, and I could see something settle on his brow. It was a strange position to be in. We were either completely fine or in incredible danger. But which was it? Which made more sense? I had a nervous sleep, no dreams, just a stream of thoughts. I kept waking up for the dumbest reasons. A car playing loud music a couple streets down, a barking dog, someone throwing away a bunch of glass bottles, just everyday city noise. Rodney had slumped against the wall, chewing on some licorice. When he noticed me watching, he pointed down the street. "They keep coming back around." "Who?" I asked. "Not sure. Some guy walking his dog every 30 minutes or so." "The same guy?" "I don't know. Maybe." We kept our eyes on the street, and just like he said, a man with a dog passed by. He was wearing a large coat and a baseball cap, and the dog was one of the larger breeds, possibly a Saint Bernard or some kind of sheepdog. "Every 30 minutes, Rodney reiterated. "I don't think he's walking his dog." "So what's he doing then?" Rodney shook his head and took another bite of licorice. "Patrolling." It was in the middle of the night when the police came back. 2 officers, same as before, walking down the line with an audible sigh. "Someone called again," they said. "What's going on?" A young man got up and pointed at the woman who'd left her things behind. The police scooped it up, checked it, and promised to take it back to the station. As they were about to leave, the young man asked if they could escort him to his car. They agreed. As he left, he looked back at the rest of us, holding up his phone. A woman he'd been sitting next to held up her phone in response. "I'll stay on the line till I get home," he called out. "I'll keep you updated." It seemed to go well enough, but as they rounded the corner at the end of the street, I noticed one of the officers looking to the left and raising his hand, as if waving someone just off to the side. We all looked at the woman with the phone. She was hunched over, cradling it with both hands, listening through wireless earpieces. She'd say something occasionally, like a quiet, "Yes, I'm still here," or "Are you okay?" Then, after a couple of minutes, her eyes went wide. "Hello?" she said. Dan? Dan, are you there?" There was no response. I could see the tears pool in her eyes as her hand started to shake. He'd promised to stay on the line. Something must have gone wrong. "They're picking us off," muttered Rodney. "Someone is picking us off." "But why?" I whispered back. "What's the point?" "Think about it," he said. "This whole block is basically shut down. Roadwork, maintenance, fumigation, renovations. It's just us out here." "But why us? Why now?" "There's gotta be a reason." Everyone was awake by then. We tried to figure out if we all had something in common. We all looked different, and we were all different ages. We were there for different reasons, and we all lived in different parts of town. There was nothing readily apparent that we had in common. Dan works at a bottling plant, the woman with the phone added. "I'm in retail." Others joined in. One was an airline pilot. Another was a bodyguard, a firefighter, a translator. All very different people in very different lines of work. However, we had one thing in common. We all had access to something. Rodney had access to pretty much whatever at the hospital. The woman working retail had access to influential private clients. The firefighter had control over who had what shift and who would respond to what call. The translator could listen in on privileged information. I was no different. I was about to become a shift manager at the plant. I could choose what and who went where and when. "Is that it?" Rodney said. "Is that what we're here for?" "But what's the point of taking us out?" I asked. "This isn't hurting anyone but us." The man walking his dog was back for another round, but now it looked like he'd slowed down a bit. As Rodney talked, I saw him stop at the end of the street, giving us a long look. But his dog looked too. Somewhere around 3 a.m., a whole group of people got up from the back of the line. The idea was clear. They were gonna rush out of there. Others protested, saying they could call people over to come help. "If we all call someone, we can make a crowd," a man called out. "We can leave as a crowd, and we'll be fine." "No, we have to spread out," someone else said. "We go different ways, and we go fast. Some of us are bound to get out." Rodney got up too, but his voice drowned in the crowd. Things were getting heated. and people were pushing past one another. Angry fingers were being pointed. Phrases were repeated over and over and over. The argument was quickly turning into a shouting contest. "There's at least 8 people patrolling," Rodney tried to say. "I've counted. There's at least 8. At least 8. But no one listened, and as push came to shove, a group from the back of the line spread out and ran into the night. Rodney slouched back down against the wall, breathing heavily. We all held our breaths, listening. We could hear footsteps running down different alleyways. It started with a crash, like someone taking a tumble into a trash container. Then one pair of footsteps stopped. Not long after, another stopped, and from a far-off corner, I heard this barking, a loud, growling bark. "No!" someone pleaded. "No, no, no!" There was no screaming, no gunshots. All the sounds just stopped, and no one came back. A guy from the back of the line called out to them, but got no answer. We were down to about 20 people. Some were calling home, others were calling the police. But they weren't about to come back here for a third time. One called a taxi, but they couldn't find a place to park, so they had to stop at an adjacent street, which we couldn't get to. There was also this one woman with a face tattoo that asked to borrow a phone. Rodney handed over his. "I'm getting my guys down here," she said. "You'll see. I'm done." She made a call, shouting angrily for a couple of minutes. After the person on the other end finally seemed to understand the gravity of the situation, Rodney got his phone back. About 20 or so minutes later, 6 very tired men came wandering down the street. I could see the outline of holsters inside their cheap jackets. "We're going," the tattooed woman called out. "Y'all can come if you want to." A couple of people got up. I looked at Rodney, but he shook his head. "Suit yourself," she continued. "We're leaving." We watched them walk away and round the corner. I heard them starting a car and putting it in gear. There was music playing, something loud with a thumping bass. It sounded like they were about to drive away when I heard a bark. But it wasn't just a bark. It was more like a growling cough. Then a gunshot. Then another. The sound bounced against the walls, ringing out over the city. I saw a couple of lights turn on in distant buildings. Then all was quiet again. No one wanted to go look. Some people screamed at nearby houses, hoping for someone to open a window and look our way. No one did. The line itself was in complete disarray by then. People were packing and unpacking, pacing back and forth, hoping some opportunity would show itself. I wasn't immune to it, but I tried to stay calm. Rodney helped a lot. He was a lot more calculated than I'd imagined when I first saw him. He counted the people walking by. He measured the dogs. He listened for repeating sounds. My mind was tired, but my heart kept my eyes open and frantic. "I don't get this one thing," I said. "There's a timeline." "What do you mean?" he asked. "They gave us a time this would open," I continued. "If they're just gonna keep us here until they've picked us off, why would they give us an end point?" "There's gotta be something to it," he said. "Some reason for this specific place, and this time. And what happens when it opens?" We looked at one another. Whatever was going on, there couldn't be anything good in there. Rodney brought up the idea of breaking into the place we'd been lining up for. A couple of folks were on board, but the front gates were barred shut and the personnel entrance was on the back of the building. That kicked up all previous arguments about calling for help, or moving as a group, or running like panicked animals into the night. We tried to bend a piece of rebar into a makeshift crowbar, but we couldn't get it to work. The place was locked down hard, and we hadn't brought anything to break through. We couldn't do it. A couple of people thought about collecting jackets and making a line so we could pull them back if need be. The problem was, no one wanted to volunteer. "Nothing happens until we're out of sight," someone said. "As long as we're within view, nothing happens. So someone can go to the end of the street, look around the corner, and come back." We had a volunteer for that, a large guy in his early 40s. He brushed off our worries, grabbed his backpack, and went to the end of the street. We could see him the whole time as he called back to us. "There's a car here," he yelled. "The door's open. There's no one here." "Can you see anything?" Rodney called out. "Nothing," he said. "Not a soul." He turned to go back to us when he stopped. He looked to the side. There was a hint of doubt there. Rodney peered up at me, then back at the man. "I think the patrol's coming around," he said. "Any moment now." Suddenly, the man started running back to us. And by the time he reached us, 3 of us were up on their feet to catch him and slow him down. He was panting like he was having an episode. We looked back towards the street, where a person walking his dog had stopped to look at us. "That's no dog," the man wheezed. "I don't know what it is, but it's no dog." For a couple of seconds, we all just stared at the stranger. There really was something unusual about that dog. Its back legs had a curious shape, but there was a shine to the eyes that I hadn't noticed before. Almost blue. A couple more people would crack in the following hour. One just straight rushed down the road. Another tried to leave but was held back by the others. A couple tried to call people for help or to have someone escort them to their car, but nothing came of it. One guy kept spamming the police over and over, yelling at the operator that if they were that upset with him, they were free to come down and arrest him at any time. By dawn, there were less than 20 of us still waiting in line. It was about 6 a.m. when I saw someone coming down the road. A woman with blue-colored hair and a neon green band shirt. I poked Rodney. We recognized her. She'd been the first one to leave, the one who went to get allergy medication. "She came back," I said. "You sure?" Rodney asked. "You sure that's her?" "Positive," I said. "Same clothes and everything." She waved at us. She was smiling and a bit bouncy, like she'd had a good night's sleep. In comparison, the rest of us were nervous wrecks. "I heard there was trouble," she said. "I'm sure it was a misunderstanding." "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing happened," she insisted. "Pills made me sleepy, so I went home. I just came to get my things, see what's going on." I wasn't buying it, and by the looks of Rodney, he wasn't either. Others didn't seem all that sure, but a couple seemed to relax their shoulders a bit. Despite my reservations, she got a couple of people up on their feet. Maybe they really wanted to believe that it was all just a big misunderstanding. And yeah, it was convincing. She'd come back after all, but maybe she was some kind of plant, or maybe it was just someone who sort of looked like her. About half of all the people who remained joined her. They left together, giving the rest of us a tired wave goodbye. Some broke down in tears. There was this one woman whose face has burned into my mind. She was completely beside herself, shaking like a dry leaf in the wind. "I'm scared, okay?" she cried. "I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. I just want to go home." She was assured and hugged and led by the hand. And slowly but surely, they all wandered off down the street. And none would return. About an hour later, there were less than 10 of us left. Rodney shook his head as he looked from side to side. "No patrols," he said. "They've missed it 2 times. "You think we can go?" I asked. "No," he said. "Something's up." He shook his head as we looked down the road, only to see someone approaching. It was one of the people who had been walking their dog, except now they weren't just passing by. They were stopping at the end of the street. A couple more joined, blocking off the other exits. One by one, they bent down and let their dogs off their leash. I looked at Rodney. For the first time, he looked scared. I could see his chest rising and falling with little claustrophobic breaths. We were being closed in on from all sides. "They have fanned us out," he whispered. "They outnumber us." "What the fuck do we do?" I whispered back. He got up and I followed. Others were taking notice as well. But as we began to spread out, we could see the approaching people moving to intercept. Then, the barking. I'll never forget the moment the dogs stepped out of the shade of the surrounding buildings. They looked almost completely black in the shadows, but they remained equally black when they stepped into the morning light. They had this ink-black slick skin. Their back feet looked like something from a bird, and the entire body was hunched over on all fours. It was more humanoid than I'd thought, and as they got closer, they stretched out. The smaller of them at full length was at least 6'7". One of them looked my way with a shark-like grin, scratching the pavement like an eager dog with long pointed claws. I looked back at Rodney a final time, and in a split-second realization, all hell broke loose. Someone made a run for it, only to be tackled to the ground. One of the dogs got them by the neck and bit down hard with a sickening snap. One guy tried to climb a light post, hoping he would get up to a window of a nearby building. Two more creatures tore down the light post, breaking it with a snap as he came tumbling to the ground. They were picking us off one by one, killing us, feeding on us. A couple had time to scream for help, but the creatures targeted whoever made noise first. The 40-something-year-old man who had gone out to the street earlier was tackled face first into the pavement and had those razor-sharp teeth dug into the back of his neck. My mouth tasted salt as morbid death smells crept up my nose. We didn't stand a chance. There were at least 12 of them, and they knew what they were doing. Rodney and I stayed by the wall, trying to make ourselves as small as possible. I got a good look at some of the dog walkers. A couple of them were complete strangers, but a couple of them I recognized from earlier. They had been in line, just like me and Rodney. Maybe they had been plants, or something else entirely. The creatures were feasting. One of the handlers went up to the locked building and rolled it open as one of them walked up to me and Rodney. He looked us up and down as one of the creatures settled down by his side, snarling and drooling, starved and ready to pounce. The man adjusted his glasses, peering out from under his baseball cap. "We got any hatchers left?" he called out. The building opened. I couldn't see what was inside from my angle, being pushed up against the wall. "All done," someone responded. "Got them all." The man looking at me and Rodney was maybe 30 years old, with a fashionable beard, simple square glasses. I couldn't have picked him out of a crowd. He looked down at the dark creature and adjusted his nondescript baseball cap. "Which one you want?" he asked. "Which did you dream of?" I felt something to my right. Rodney reached out and grabbed my hand. Not because we were making a break for it, or to try some last-minute master plan. He was just scared. And when you're scared, you want to hold someone's hand. So he held mine. The creature looked us over, a hint of blue reflected at us from its deep eyes. We fumbled for the right words to say. Some plea, some brilliant last-minute monologue. Something to appeal to their sense of kindness and humanity. But the stranger with the glasses didn't move a muscle. He might as well have been shopping for groceries. And with that, the creature growled. It pounced on Rodney. I held his hand for as long as I could. I didn't look. I remember the sensation of screaming, but I don't remember the sound. My throat turned raw. The muscles in Rodney's hand tightened, then fell limp. The man with the glasses took a step forward, shushing the creature. There, he said. "It's okay. Dream well. Eat." Bone crunching, sinew snapping, meat and the smell of hot iron. I closed my eyes so hard my skull ached. There was noise all around me. I didn't hear most of it, as I could barely make out anything over the sound of my own heart. There was biting and ripping interlaced with the most casual sounding conversation. "You got the shells?" someone said. "No need. We're torching." "You sure?" "It's clear. We got a firefighter." I looked up. A couple creatures began to look different as they ate. Some had brighter skin. Some were shorter, fatter. I heard clattering as their claws fell off their fingers, bones snapping as their legs straightened. Then, the man with the glasses clapped his hands at me. "Hey," he said. "You can go." "What?" "You can go," he repeated. "We're done." I got up off the ground and cleared my eyes. A couple of people looked my way, and I could tell they weren't entirely convinced. Some were armed. I recognized one of them as the woman with the face tattoo. "You're letting me go?" "Sure," he said. "We got a full brood. We don't need you." "You can't kill people and walk away," I whispered. You can't do that." He shrugged at me like I'd asked him what the time was. I stepped back, and no one followed me. I glanced at the creature gnawing on Rodney, only to see that it had started to gain his features, his face, his gangly arms, and all the while, the man with the glasses calmly shushed it and stroked its back. The others were setting fire to the building, using a can of gasoline and a strip of newspaper. I only saw a brief glance of the inside. Black rock-like fragments littered the floor. Strange organic formations stuck to the wall in batches of 3 to 6. When he noticed I wasn't leaving, the man with the glasses casually waved a pistol at me. Not to shoot me, but to show that he had it. "Go on now," he said. And as the fire flared up, I stepped around the corner. And I didn't return. I came home in tears. I remember breaking down in the hallway, trying to explain everything all at once to my girlfriend. I told her about the tickets, and the plans I'd made, and the people I'd met, and the dogs, and the handlers, all of it. I tried to show her Rodney's socials, and as I did, I noticed he was posting. My heart skipped a beat. "Long night," the post said. It was just a selfie, posted 10 minutes earlier. He looked fine, healthy even. But there was a little blue tint to his eyes that wasn't there before. No people went missing that night. Everyone came home, eventually. And from what I've heard, there haven't been any incidents. Everything just keeps going like normal, like nothing happened. So who can I call? What can I even say? You can't report a person not being properly killed to the police. I even texted Rodney once, and he responded like it was no big deal. "I just went home," he said. "I'm fine. We should hang out sometime." I haven't agreed to it. I don't think I can. I don't even know what to think anymore. About a week or so after all this went down, I got a card. An apology card with a sad blue sunflower on the front. Inside was a handwritten note. "Sorry for the inconvenience," it read. There were 2 tickets to the concert, backstage passes. I ended up going. I proposed. I think I recognized a couple of people in the crowd, but I'm not sure. Now, years down the line, it all feels like a nightmare. I can't point to a single thing and say, "Hey, look, it really happened." There are no witnesses, and in the eyes of the law, no crime has been committed. But I know what I lived through that night. That'll stay with me forever. And I know this was violent and ugly and sick. But that email